Picture this. You find yourself in a room filled with individuals all aiming for success. Some adhere to ethical practices, put in the effort, and remain loyal to their principles. Others resort to deceit, manipulation, and will stop at nothing to get ahead. Surprisingly, it is often the more ruthless individuals who reach the highest peaks. Why does it seem that the world favors the worst among us? Throughout history, in politics, business, and beyond, you can find numerous instances of people who, despite their unethical behavior, have gained remarkable power. From merciless rulers to aggressive corporate leaders, this trend is evident. However, this isn't merely a coincidence. It reflects a fundamental aspect of human nature, deeply rooted in our evolutionary psychology and societal frameworks. In a landscape where resources are limited, competition becomes unavoidable. Those who hesitate or prioritize fairness often find themselves at a disadvantage. In contrast, those willing to exploit, deceive, and dominate tend to ascend. This stark reality compels us to face a troubling question. Is morality a liability in the pursuit of power? Yet, the irony lies in the fact that while the most unscrupulous individuals may thrive in the short term, history is replete with accounts of their eventual downfall. The inquiry extends beyond their rise. It also considers whether their success can endure. More crucially, what implications does this hold for those of us who choose to uphold our values? Nietzsche viewed power as an inescapable aspect of life, neither inherently good nor evil, but simply a facet of existence. To grasp why the most undesirable individuals often succeed, we must first examine the essence of power itself. This requires us to explore one of Nietzsche's most debated concepts, master morality. Let's delve deeper. Picture two warriors on a battlefield. One is robust, decisive, and unafraid. He seizes what he desires, molds the world to his will, and does not seek permission. The other is indecisive, waiting for external affirmation, striving for fairness, and hoping that his virtues will be recognized by the world. Which of these two is more likely to endure? Which is more likely to gain control? Friedrich Nietzsche contended that morality is not an absolute truth, but rather a construct shaped by historical power dynamics. He identified two core moral frameworks, master morality and slave morality. These concepts are not merely theoretical. They shed light on why ruthless individuals frequently ascend to power, while those who value kindness and fairness often face challenges. Master morality represents the ethics of the strong, the leaders, and the conquerors. It is founded on principles such as strength, bravery, ambition, and power. For the masters, what is deemed good is that which enhances their capacity to dominate, create, and impose their will on the world. They do not seek validation. They establish their own value. They take charge of their fate, and do not view weakness as something to be sheltered. Rather, it is simply something to be conquered. Slave morality represents the ethical framework of the oppressed and powerless, those unable to assert their will directly. Rather than celebrating strength, it honors humility, obedience, and self-sacrifice. It promotes the idea that suffering is virtuous and that power is fundamentally corrupt. The unsettling reality is that slave morality does not stop the emergence of the ruthless. It actually facilitates it. By denouncing ambition and shaming the quest for power, it allows power to remain with those indifferent to morality. While the noble-hearted hesitate, those who adopt master morality seize control. And in a landscape where hesitation leads to defeat, the outcomes are predictable. So, what implications does this have for us? Should we completely forsake morality and follow a ruthless path? Or is there a way to harmonize strength with virtue? To explore this, we need to delve into the psychology of those who ascend to power, individuals who refuse to be victims of their circumstances. Imagine a vast, wild wilderness. In this realm, survival hinges not on fairness or kindness, but on strength, adaptability, and the readiness to do whatever is necessary. The lion does not seek permission to hunt. The storm does not apologize for its devastation. Nature does not reward morality. It favors those who can endure and dominate. Human society operates in much the same way. Underneath our laws and social agreements, the fundamental struggle for survival continues unabated. Those who ascend to power often exhibit a key characteristic: ruthlessness. Not necessarily in the form of cruelty, but in their capacity to make decisive actions without being hindered by doubt or guillotine. This phenomenon is not coincidental. Represents an evolutionary adaptation, a strategy that has enabled both individuals and empires to take control in a world that does not accommodate the indecisive. Psychologists have extensively examined the traits that forecast success in competitive settings. Repeatedly, we observe similar patterns: a high degree of ambition, a diminished sensitivity to fear, and perhaps most controversially, a lesser degree of empathy for those who obstruct their path. This does not imply that all influential individuals are psychopaths, but it does suggest that many possess characteristics that enable them to act without the emotional barriers that restrain others. Think of the leaders, entrepreneurs, and conquerors who have altered the course of history, from Julius Caesar to contemporary business tycoons. The trend is unmistakable: hesitation is a disadvantage, and power is seized rather than granted. The strong do not wait for authorization to lead. They advance, take risks, and deal with the repercussions afterward. This explains why the ruthless often succeed while the hesitant linger in obscurity. Yet, there is a paradox: ruthlessness by itself is insufficient. Those who exercise power without wisdom frequently encounter dramatic failures. The same traits that propel a person to the top can also lead to their downfall. A leader who relies solely on fear to maintain control will ultimately be overtaken by the very forces they once dominated. History is filled with tyrants who thought they were untouchable until they faced their downfall. So, if power is frequently claimed by the ruthless, does this imply that morality and fairness are destined to fail? Not necessarily. To grasp why, we must confront one of the most significant misconceptions of contemporary society: the notion that the world is just. From a young age, we are told a reassuring tale that the world operates fairly, that virtuous individuals are rewarded, and that justice will ultimately triumph. Fairy tales, religious doctrines, and ethical philosophies all support this belief. However, as we enter the real world, a harsh contradiction arises: the hardest workers are not always the richest, the most honest do not always lead, and the kindest souls often bear the deepest wounds. This disparity is not a flaw in the system, it is the system itself. The concept of fairness is, in many respects, a social construct, a narrative created to uphold order rather than to mirror reality. It is a comforting illusion, but an illusion nonetheless. Power and success are not distributed based solely on merit. They are seized, contested, and frequently hoarded by those who grasp the dynamics of the game better than others. Psychological studies have identified a phenomenon known as the just world fallacy, the inclination to believe that life is fundamentally fair and that individuals receive what they deserve. This belief is perilous because it fosters a sense of passivity. If we think that simply being good will guarantee success, we may overlook the harsh realities of competition, strategy, and power dynamics. Meanwhile, those who do not share our optimistic views are already advancing. Does this imply that morality is irrelevant? Should we forsake all principles in our quest for power? Not necessarily. The crucial point is to grasp the nature of the game without becoming enslaved by it. Often, those who suffer the most are those who think that merely being kind will suffice. In contrast, those who manage to blend integrity with strategic insight, who merge compassion with strength, are the ones who redefine the rules. The reality is, this fairness is not something we can passively await. It is something we must actively create, which necessitates power. Nietzsche regarded this struggle as an essential aspect of human life. His solution was not to succumb to the illusion of fairness or to become blindly ruthless. Instead, he advocated for a higher perspective, a means to rise above both weakness and cruelty. To grasp this, we need to delve into one of his most groundbreaking concepts, the Übermensch, the individual who transcends morality, illusions, and limitations. Picture yourself at the brink of a vast chasm. Behind you is the world as it exists, rife with injustice, constraints, and the heavy burden of societal norms. Ahead of you is the unknown, a path that only the courageous dare to tread. Many will falter, bound by fear and uncertainty, but a select few will take the plunge. These individuals are the Übermenschen, those who transcend the ordinary, carve their own paths, and redefine power on their own terms. Friedrich Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch, or Overmannen, is not centered on sheer force or blind domination. It emphasizes self-overcoming. The Übermensch is someone who refuses to be a victim of their circumstances, who questions imposed morality, and who actively shapes their own fate rather than conforming to societal expectations. At the core of the Übermensch lies the will to power. Unlike the passive morality of submission and guilt, the will to power involves embracing one's deepest instincts. to create, to transform, and to impose meaning on a seemingly meaningless world. It is not about exerting control over others, but rather mastering oneself. While the weak remain ensnared by fear, the Übermensch advances, free from societal illusions. Importantly, the Übermensch is not cruel for cruelty's sake. Unlike tyrants and manipulators who seek power out of insecurity, the Übermensch does not require external validation. Their strength is intrinsic. They do not depend on deceit or oppression, as their power is self-sustained, independent of outside approval or temporary success. This explains why the most despicable individuals may rise to power. The tyrants and manipulators who seize control out of insecurity do not embody the Übermensch. Instead, the Übermensch's strength is rooted within. They do not depend on deceit or oppression because their strength is self-sustained, not reliant on outside validation or temporary achievements. This explains why the most despicable individuals may attain power, yet they will never truly rise above. The merciless engage in a short-term game, advancing through manipulation and coercion, while the Übermensch participates in an eternal game, creating something larger than themselves. They are innovators, not merely exploiters. So, how can we embody this? How do we maneuver through a world that rewards the ruthless without becoming one of them? The key is to view power not as a weapon, but as a resource. The next step is to learn how to compete in a landscape that does not pause for the compassionate. Imagine this: you are in a high-stakes competition where the rules are dictated by those who are determined to win at any cost. If you hesitate or believe that fairness will shield you, you will fail. This is the reality many encounter in business, politics, and life. The ruthless understand this. They seize what they desire. But does this imply that you must adopt their ways to endure? Not necessarily. The common error is thinking there are only two options: be ruthless or be a victim. However, there is a third way, one that combines strategic insight with integrity, enabling you to compete without compromising your values. Nietzsche's philosophy was not about mindless domination. It was about overcoming weakness while remaining true to oneself. The essential insight is to grasp the nature of power without becoming a prisoner to it. Here's how: one of the most significant vulnerabilities people face is their expectation that life should be fair. It shouldn't be. It never has been. The most formidable competitors recognize this early on. They don't squander time lamenting injustices. Instead, they learn the rules of the game and leverage them to their benefit. This doesn't imply abandoning ethics. It means acknowledging that power is neutral, and those who comprehend it wield it most effectively. Many falter because they believe that kindness alone will lead to success, but power is seldom granted. It must be seized. This doesn't equate to becoming cruel, but it does involve understanding the intentions of those who might take advantage of you. Strategic empathy entails deeply understanding people, recognizing their motivations, and predicting their actions. It enables you to navigate deceit without resorting to deception yourself. Most individuals are governed by fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of isolation. The Übermensch, however, cultivates internal strength. This involves embracing discomfort, taking risks, and carving out your own path in the face of opposition. The most accomplished individuals do not seek permission. They create opportunities where none exist. There is a distinction between mindless ruthlessness and purposeful ruthlessness. The former is destructive without intent. The latter is the capacity to make difficult decisions without hesitation. True power necessitates walking away from toxic relationships, making unpopular choices, or facing uncomfortable realities. This is not cruelty. It is fortitude. The crucial aspect is knowing when and how to apply it. The ruthless may ascend quickly, but they also experience significant downfalls. Why is this? Their power is derived from exploitation rather than creation. The true Übermensch is a builder, whether that involves a business, an idea, a movement, or personal growth. By creating value, you become essential. There's no need for manipulation because your power is earned, not taken. So, can you thrive in a world that favors the ruthless? Certainly, but only if you abandon the old ways, stop anticipating fairness, and focus on mastering power on your own terms. This leads us to a crucial question: is power inherently evil, or is it simply misunderstood? Power is a driving force in the world, influencing the lives of those who wield it and those who are subject to it. But is power itself evil? Nietzsche's examination of power extended beyond mere domination. It was about creation. The desire for power, as Nietzsche suggested, is frequently misinterpreted. It's not about oppressing others. It's about surpassing your own limitations and evolving into something greater than you ever envisioned. However, history often associates power with corruption. We have observed numerous leaders who, upon seizing power, succumb to ego, greed, and tyranny. This contradiction prompts us to question, is power inherently evil, or does it merely reveal the darker aspects of human nature? Nietzsche posited that true power is not about inflicting harm on others. Rather, it involves conquering oneself, aspiring for greatness, and establishing new values, rather than yielding to societal moral standards. Yet, the moral framework of society often casts power in a corrupt light. In a culture that values virtue, those who pursue power are frequently met with skepticism. But could this perception be misguided? What if by rejecting traditional morality and forging your own path, you are embodying the most authentic form of existence? One that is raw, unfiltered, and unapologetic. Nietzsche viewed the will to power not merely as a desire for dominance over others, but as an internal drive to live more fully and to test the boundaries of one's potential. From this perspective, power transforms into an ethical endeavor, one that encourages you to liberate yourself from societal limitations and to define your life according to your own standards. However, does this imply that everyone who seeks power is virtuous? Not necessarily. The journey to power can be a double-edged sword, leading either to enlightenment or to ruin. The distinction lies in the intent. Is the pursuit of power a way to impose your will on others? Or is it a journey of self-overcoming, of shaping a reality that resonates with your highest goals? Is power inherently evil? Not at all. It serves as a tool, one that, when used by someone with integrity, can lead to extraordinary achievements. However, when it is exploited for personal gain or to subjugate others, it exposes the more sinister sides of human nature. Nietzsche encourages us to reconsider our view of power, not as something to dread, but as something to be mastered through discipline, strength, and a steadfast dedication to becoming better than we are today. If this discussion on power and success has prompted reflection, challenged your beliefs, and ignited a deeper interest in life and philosophy, be sure to subscribe to the Mirror of Being channel. Remember to like this video, share it with those who could benefit from this insight, and stay tuned for fresh content every day. Together, let's continue our journey toward understanding, growth, and the pursuit of a more empowered life.